Hello, welcome to the show. This is Nerdist's Book Club. We're coming to you on a Thursday instead of a Wednesday. I'm Maude Garrett. So stoked to talk to you. Thank you for your patience. Big apologies. Technical difficulties up the wazoo. Got there in the end. Excited for this show. Hello if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Nerdist's Facebook page, if you're watching on Geek and Sundry's Twitch. Fashionably late. But gosh, the hair looked good, so it's okay. I'd love to introduce the one, the only Rachel Heine, who not only loves horror, but loves Bradbury. And so the fact that we're covering Something Wicked This Way Comes, the first half of the book. Rach, when was the last time you read this book?
I've been trying to remember. I was obsessed with it in high school. I may have read it in college again, but otherwise I'm not super sure. So it's been a really long time. Like I remember as I was reading this section, I definitely remembered a lot more than I did before, but and like what happens, but only in a sort of big picture way.
Okay. We like to kind of ask everyone initially, book good? What are your initial thoughts of the book? Let's kind of go over some initial thoughts. And as you get your opinions in and as you form your thoughts, let's learn a little bit about Bradbury. Now, Ray Bradbury is a very well-known name. We've brought him up a lot. I believe read some short stories previously. I think I was sick that particular month, so I never did. But Bradbury, in his 70-plus year long career, wrote over 400 short stories, nearly 50 books across a variety of genres. He also penned numerous poems, essays, plays, operas, teleplays, screenplays, basically making him one of the most productive and admired writers of our time, as well as one of the most widely translated in the world, which is quite interesting because it's the first time I'm reading him. And I host two book clubs.
The Martian Chronicles.
No, I didn't. I was sick that week.
Oh, you were sick? Oh my God, Maude.
I know. I never read it. I dodged it.
We'll have to see what you think about his writing style, but continue.
Actually, I may have read a couple of the short stories. He did a series of short stories for the Martian Chronicles, right?
Mm-hmm. The Martian Chronicles is short stories.
Yeah,
but
okay.
They follow a through line. But they were, so Ray Bradbury too, when he started, this also ties back to when we did Lovecraft Country, which I'm still sad didn't get a second season.
I know.
But he was part of sort of the pulpy writers that inspired that time and kind of elevated the genre a lot. And he wrote a ton of short stories in all of these magazines and places like that. And so then once his work started picking up, then he, you know, sometimes they would have the same through line. Like the Martian Chronicles does have like bird's eye view of sort of humanity trying to colonize another planet and what that does to the people living there. And so there's little vignettes, but it all kind of is part of a larger theme, similar to The Illustrated Man, which is actually there are stories with the characters in this book in that collection of stories, because I do want to shout out this fun fact because I love it. When Ray Bradbury was 12, he went to a carnival and met a Mr. Electro, I believe his name was, and that sort of like magician character like told him like live forever, like gave him like a prophecy or something and told him to live forever. And he says he started writing like when he was 12, and I just think that's really interesting because of the book that we're reading right now, and so many of the stories have these characters, but also that I do think like in terms of living forever, he's so iconic and prolific. You know, he's maybe not the most mainstream, but at least in the States, you probably read at least one short story of his in an English class. The Veldt is my personal favorite. There's also, what's that one called? It's really sad. They're all sad. Oh,
good.
Yeah, but like beautiful sad.
Okay. A lot of people Enjoying it or trying to get used to his writing. If you don't know Ray Bradbury's other big novels, there's Fahrenheit 451. The Martian Chronicles was a really, really big one. His works traveled the world quite literally. A digitized copy of the Martian Chronicles reached the Red Planet in 2008 aboard NASA's Phoenix Mars lander. A lot of people were inspired by Bradbury, including Stephen King, Steven Spielberg, Margaret Atwood, Neil Gaiman, Elton John, Deadmau5, Rush, Rachel Bloom, David Lynch, James Cameron, Back to the Future screenwriter Bob Gale, Rob Serling, and basically directly contributed ideas and scripts to The Twilight Zone. And there's a quote saying, without Ray Bradbury, there is no Stephen King. So he kind of debuted this.
He said that when Ray Bradbury died, or maybe not when he died, but he's quoted as saying that. Yeah, he, I mean, also we can get into it, but like this book obviously inspired it a little bit, you know? Just all of those like elements of it. Yeah, I love, there's, you know, Rocket Man, obviously, and things like that. And he also had Ray Bradbury Theater, which was kind of similar to The Twilight Zone, just in
I
like,
think
concept.
I remember that, hearing about that. Yeah, it's a very unique way to sort of storytell.
Someone in the chat, C. Villasenor said, Illustrated Man had some interesting vignettes, and also Ian Powell, totally agree. House of Usher 2 from The Martian Chronicles is a good self-contained short story for this time of year. If you like Poe or like have any knowledge of the House of Usher, even if you don't, you could read that and then this, but it's The Martian Chronicles, and it's sort of like Fahrenheit 451. It's all about like on Earth there were all of these book bannings and you know, things that are happening right now as we speak.
Yep.
And this sort of like culture of getting rid of all of the art and creative things that have anything sinful or bad or whatever in them. And so there's this House of Usher, which is from the Edgar Allan Poe story, that this person builds the house on Mars, and then when the sort of like Martian zoning people, humans, like come and are like, hey, you're not supposed to do it this way, etc. And then things go a little deliciously spooky after that, and it's really great. And I know Mike Flanagan is doing Fall of the House of Usher, adapting that in his way, and I don't know how he would do this or what he's planning, but I would love a bottle episode based on the Martian Chronicles short story. I think that would be so cool.
Oh, that's awesome. He's kind of like moving into the new sort of like TV horror genre expert. Yeah, I haven't watched any of them.
Midnight Club, which is a Christopher Pike book, of which I have. Hold on.
Oh, she's gonna go get it. While she goes and grabs that, a little bit about the book. A carnival rolls in sometime after midnight hour on a chill Midwestern October evening, ushering in Halloween a week before its time. A calliope's shrill siren song beckons to all with the seductive promise of dreams and youth regained. In this season of dying, Cougar and Dark's Pandemonium Shadow Show has come to Greentown, Illinois, to destroy every life touched by its strange and sinister mystery. Two inquisitive boys standing precariously on the brink of adulthood will soon discover the secret of the satanic Rarey show's smoke, mazes, and mirrors as they learn all too well the heavy cost of wishes and the stuff of nightmares. Yeah, this book, carnivals. We had carnivals before. We previously did Erin.
The Night Circus?
The Night Circus, but that was a little bit more wistful.
Yeah,
this is
whimsical.
Emotional shanking. Alrighty, so this is Christopher Pike's The Midnight Club.
Really
Tell us a little bit about these.
These are half of the ones. I bought them in a like eBay package because I don't have them anymore. I read these when I was like 10.
I feel like I remember these in like a library.
Yeah.
but I didn't go there because I don't like to be scared.
Anyway, I've got many more, but they're just a peek inside the brain of a young Rachel. But I do want to talk about the writing style and Maude. I want to know what you think so far. And if you don't like it, it is okay. Even though, you know, I love Bradbury, I'm never going to be upset at you.
Okay. So a trope in a lot of horror is one person not really acting themselves and another person sort of like seeing the truth, seeing these discrepancies or seeing sort of shit go down and no one believing them. And what's interesting in this case, you've got your Will Holloway and Jim Nightshade. I had to listen to the first few chapters twice because it just wasn't sinking in for me. I'm listening to the book. I don't mind the writing style. I just think that there's sort of some whiplash happenings. It's not super linear as a story, I find. It kind of does jump somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
But Will Holloway and Jim Nightshade, best buds, born a minute or two apart, sort of over pre and post midnight, chatting with a lightning rod salesman who says that Jim's house will be struck and hands a rod to sort of avoid his house being destroyed by it for freezies. Red flag. But these two boys, besties, they have done everything together. And then once the sort of lure of this circus kind of draws them in, Will turns into the paranoid, things are going bad, we shouldn't do this, wail, woe is me, what's happening, why won't anyone believe me? And Jim Nightshade lives up to his surname and gets a little shady. It's interesting for me because our two protagonists are young boys and I find an absolute detachment to them because of it. It's got that ragtag like boy, you know, like the little stick over the shoulder with the knapsack kind of, you know, it's got that kind of vibe. And I'm like, so far I've related most to sort of like Mrs. Foley or whatever her name is, the teacher who went, oh, I went a bit too hard, too fast. And I'm just going to stay in denial for a moment about it. Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thought circling my brain is that fear is not, you're not born with it, it is taught. Why do people keep fucking with the circus and clowns and sideshow shit? It's making me more scared of it. I loved it when I was a kid, and now it's been villainized.
Well, I think it sort of reflects, like, in his writing of the time, 1962, I believe.
Come on, Jim, we're going to circus.
I don't think they're Southern. But
Illinois, where's Illinois? Couldn't point to it on a map. Is that a way?
It's no. But what if I got that wrong? I just had a panic moment of like, am I wrong?
I will find out.
Illinois?
You keep
no. But it's sort of a play on what actually happened with circuses in the I believe the late 1800s. I'm pulling up my notes. There was this this sort of I don't remember the name. I think it was the Chicago. There was a big traveling circus that happened in the late 1800s, and it sort of sparked.
It's a cross. It's not up. It's a cross. By the way, Illinois is a cross.
It's a cross, and it's a cross.
A little bit up, but way more across.
Well, I meant up from the south. I wasn't doing from California.
Correct. Yes, you're correct.
Because not everyone's in California. Those close though. Could have been really embarrassing if I didn't embarrass myself all the time.
No, look at this. Look at this. Yeah.
Thank you, Kay Frito. But there was a huge sort of influx of traveling circuses, and they became, especially thinking about the late 1800s, early 1900s, and this sort of, you don't go outside of your town very often. You don't meet other people or see strange things. And it became this like big, like cultural moment. But as the years went on, obviously the ways that circus and carnival performers and animals were treated came into a very sharp light, and people just, the culture started evolving to understand that these were not great. And so I think part of the like playing with creepy carnivals is sort of a play on that, this like thing that is so enticing, but there's so much like rotting behind it.
Yes.
But also 1962, I haven't actually done the research, but like probably an earliest version of this trope.
Yeah.
Potentially. Someone might know more than me. But yes, the World Fair. Thank you, Pai Lang. Thank you. But I hear what you're saying totally. And it's funny because I do quite like narratives that jump back and forth. But for me, the writing style, and I know I saw someone here who said that they didn't like him, and that's super fair. I think the writing is so beautiful. And I really love the sort of the syntax in that the sentences can go from like short, very clipped, very succinct to these like sprawling, beautiful, dark descriptions of everything. I highlighted so much in my Kindle, just being like, oh, this is written so beautifully. That's how I feel. It's kind of not quite the same, but reminds me a little bit of what I liked about Faulkner as well. Not the exact same writing style, but this sort of like a little chaotic. You're like the pieces are slowly coming together for you, but not fully. I mean, hello, it's me.
Keeps you in the dark a little bit too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to be spoon-fed a little bit. Like, don't tell me how to feel, show me. I get that. But like when it comes to my investment into the book, if I'm kept in the dark too long, I check out.
So in terms of that, like let's dig into it. Where are like specific moments where you felt like you weren't getting enough or anything like that?
Okay, let's talk about the kid who's really an old man, the nephew. What the fuck?
Yeah, dude.
I mean, the visual on that one was amazing. It was so frightening how the click, click, click of his eyes.
And the witch with the sewn eyes too. The witch who's going to like paint, she has her eyes, like the blind witch that comes to the house, she's got her eyes sewn up.
Yeah, because he's calling, trying to get to beckon her. I don't like that. I'm like, why are you fucking with this? Like, go to bed. Don't go into the just anyway.
Yeah, but even 13, even if it's not necessary, like I was thinking through the time. I think for me with the boys too, there's this really this like vulnerable sort of, not even innocent, I mean definitely with Will, but this like, especially with him, I think there's this like, it feels like he's, and maybe also the time period, he's untouched by like real hard things and like being trained as to become a man in a certain way and things like that.
Who are you talking about?
Like, Will.
Oh, a little cinnamon roll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I wrote.
Looks like a cinnamon roll. Is a cinnamon roll.
Is a cinnamon roll, yeah. Because I think, and just the like that friendship and the closeness of them and thinking about sort of gender roles and masculinity and what's encouraged and what's not, and this like, and the sort of feeling of that kind of young friendship and the split when you both start growing and changing and it might not be in the same way, and that's sort of the first time you experience that. All of that really resonated with me, and throughout the reading I was like, well, I largely feel like when I was 13, I would have been sort of a mix of them, only mostly probably Jim Nightshade. But
I'm Will. We shouldn't be doing these bad things. Sort of
still the like I would definitely, I don't know, because I would sneak out when I was that age, you know, so I don't know. I think I'm probably.
And I'd be there going,
night-
Rachel, don't do it. We'll get into trouble.
I'd be like,
Something
"No,
bad
come
will
with-"
happen.
I mean, I'm not the way that like Jim is so entranced and sort of leaving Will in the dust to run after something really frightening. I am shocked by this news. I'm shocked. Go us. But I wouldn't, you know, when he like leaves him or is like, oh, like all of that stuff. But I do understand the sort of like, you've seen a lot and you already at this point, like
seeking a challenge.
Kind of seeking a challenge. And also the thing I really like about these two characters and like trying to unpack them is like Will is still every time he's like, call the police, let's go to the police station, talk to my dad, let's tell them. And Jim never even thinks of that because he already has learned for himself, whether that's true or not, but in his current like circumstances, no one's coming to help. He's going to have to do whatever he needs to do. And I just think that's so interesting that they grew up together, but from these like kind of different dynamics and have always had some of these differences, you know what I mean? But that the carnival and then witnessing to like peeping Tom watching two people having sex, and their different reactions to that, all of that happens like kind of at once. And so it escalates like a friend breakup or a friend like tension between wanting different things or being different than the way you were when you were kids.
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Kugler?
Yeah.
Mr. Kugler.
Wait, what?
I love it. I love it.
I love the chat that's happening in the comments at the moment. Are you more Will? Are you more Jim? Are you the one who's going to just slink into danger? Or are you trying not to get caught? Are you trying to dissuade robbing your teacher, talking to the deranged child with old man eyes, Mr. Kugler in the nephew form?
That I wouldn't do.
Hell no.
I have some survival
He's like
Although
lurking behind the curtain. Oh.
I know. The other thing, because I don't remember the specifics, and I don't know if he goes into it or not, but there's also like, yes, there is like inherited darkness in Jim, I think. Oh my God. Wait, I want that puzzle. But I think, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
You were saying that Jim inherently actually has some darkness in him. He has
darkness, but it's sort of like a lot of it is his circumstances, you know? And so I'm wondering if, as we kind of get deeper too, it's like, is he under kind of a spell? Like, is it just that he is sort of like so burning up to be different, to get out of there, to make his own life, to be challenged, all of those things? And
is this a 19... Oh, I'm so sorry, love. I'm just like 62. Trying to deduce. Is this a 1962 version of Bradbury saying single mothers create fiends? Because we look at the family life. Like Will, very much, we're meeting his dad. We're learning the relationship between dad and mum. He's very much a part of a full household with parents still together. And that is mentioned quite a lot. And Jim, mum doesn't really care when he gets home. He's got a lot more flexibility, which can suggest negligence, neglect, and is that sort of like this nature versus nurture? The fact that Will has a more sort of like grounded household and Jim has a single mom who's struggling.
I think you definitely could be right. And, written in 1962, so mileage may vary on, views of women, obviously. But I think I think it's more like, yeah, it is helpful. I think it's not just that he has a single mom, though. It's that his dad either isn't around or died, and he almost died as a child. Huge trauma, even if you can't really remember it. especially if you can't, because that's when your brain is the most moldy. Not moldy like cheese, moldy like you can mold. Just to clarify.
I needed it. I needed that clarification. What happened?
You know, I realized I was like, what am I talking about? And then 2 of his other siblings also died. He's the only surviving one. So his mom, while she is more lax, she also, growing up, hearing about these kids who didn't make it, and it's just him and his mom, and he almost died, and you have to be careful, and all of these things, I think that's a large part of it. And with Will, he does have a family, and they are together and like happy, but his dad is not happy and very checked out, and they don't know how to talk to each other. Relatable. Even though they're so much into the same things, and like I really love sort of in the later half of our reading, that those scenes after Will's dad, Charles, like gets them home, and they
have a bonding at 1:30 in the morning. Yeah.
And then they like have that long talk about like goodness, and he like gets up the ladder and things like that. And so I think it's less, I think Will doesn't have any, he doesn't have, I don't want to say he doesn't have any trauma, who knows, but what
Jim's gone through some shit.
What Jim has gone through before he was even like talking probably or conscious of anything. Like he's been surrounded by death, surrounded by loss. People leave, people die. And you can see that obviously in his worldview. And exactly. Yeah, it feels very sort of like, I think it's less about the whether or not one is like better or more stable. Obviously, slightly more stable on that side, but I think it's more about this like innocence that like, yes, Will can see that his family is not happy. He wants to protect people. He wants to protect them. He's seeing how small they're feeling because he's growing up. But he's okay. And Jim has this like fire in him and needs to get out. And that could just be who they are. And then adding the layers of what Jim has gone through and this like sense of adventure and, maybe survivor's guilt, maybe, playing games with very dangerous situations. Like, I think that to me is sort of why you're like, Jim, why are you doing that? But I think he doesn't care. He is mad. He is like, just
wanting
needs
to
go, needs to do something. And if I die, like, so everyone dies, it's fine. Like that feels, oh my God, 13-year-old, like that tracks for me.
Yeah, I get it.
But I totally hear you. Which chapter is chapter 28? Is that the one we were just talking about? Probably.
That's the one where Will and his dad really have that powwow. You can hear Zelda. I have chicken right here, and Zelda's now yipping at me for it. It ain't from her bed. Ain't gonna happen, sweetheart. If you do want to weigh in the "Are you Will or are you Jim" conversation, let's read a little bit about who Will is and who Jim is. So Will is the sweet, sweet cinnamon roll boy. He's both innocent and wise. He also wants to slow down time. He wants to stay a boy. He wants to keep climbing those trees, sneaking out of his window forever. But he also knows that he's growing. And as he grows, he wants to take care of the people that he loves, including his parents. And he longs for a closer relationship with his dad, who is so much like him. The thing is, though, his dad's a lot older than his mum. Dad's already 54 while he's 13. I remember in high school, she was 13. Her dad was like 64. And she felt so isolated, like she didn't have a dad.
Yeah, my little brother, my dad and his ex-wife had my little brother when he was 50.
Yeah,
so he's 60 or maybe 49. I don't know, around then. So it is weird. Even for me, like my parents were 35 and 36, which obviously that's very normal, but
It's really not old. That is not an old number.
No, I know.
That is
I'm
not
about
an
to
old.
be. Not at all. No, that's what I'm saying. But in the 80s and 90s, when I grew up, when a lot of my friends didn't even have divorced parents, and then they had kind of younger parents as well. It was just it wasn't like bad, but you notice it a little bit, especially as they start getting older. It's super young to have kids. That's what I'm just comparing it to my childhood and sort of what was around me was like, oh, mom and dad, they live in a house, and they had them when they were 25 and they're, whatever, all of that kind of thing. Yeah,
Avery says, I interpreted it as Jim feeling smothered by his mom because of how tightly she holds on to him due to him being all that she has left. She does not want to lose him. So, yes, she shows a lot of love, but especially when you're a 13-year-old boy, get off me.
Yeah.
Let me have my independence. Let me do my thing.
And also just like, I love even just the way she speaks with him about it, where she's like, I lost the other two. It's just, tell me before you go. Like, it's very, you can just feel the like,
the panic,
the panic, the like guilt trip, the embarrassment, the survivor's guilt. Like, that's so much to be like burning around in a 13-year-old boy's brain in 1962, where he's definitely not going to go to therapy.
So, which goes with this, Miss Necromancer saying, so I guess personally thought that Jim had already had that dark side in him. So when the circus came to town, it made that darkness bloom.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why they're so focused on him, because they can sort of read that in other people. Anyway, let's keep talking about Will.
Oh, I like this. It's probably why the lightning rod salesman picked his house, because he knew that he would attract the lighting/evil of the circus. Kate says, that's why I think I find Will annoying as a character. I see myself in Jim a lot, and I see Will's nervous Nelly behavior as tethering Jim. You don't see the balance of the light and the dark.
That's so interesting. I think if I were Jim, I would probably be annoyed. Exactly. No, I did not mean to, like, at all. I do not believe that. I don't think that is old to have a kid. I was just talking about in context of growing up in the 80s and what was around me. Anyway,
Oh my God, I'm trying to block this guy. There we go. Get the truck out of here. I'm flattered, but fuck off.
Yeah, thanks, but we're having a discussion.
Yeah.
I think I would be annoyed, I found it, by Will's behavior, but especially getting so much of Will's interior, I think, oh gosh, why did I do that? I renewed it. As an adult, I just see how badly Will wants to protect him and kind of everyone around him. And I can imagine growing up as close as they did too, that probably developed some out of seeing Jim, going through things and being sort of the darker side to this coin. So I guess, I don't know.
I hear you. I've been the Will of a situation though, where I've had a friend kind of like slip more and more into sort of like that darkness in ways that sabotaged personally, or like challenge the system, or would like almost hurt themselves to try and like find a sense of independence or freedom or an escape from sort of like their world. And you're just like, hey, come back. Like that, you're really hurting yourself. And they're like, fuck you don't know me. And you just kind of like, I've been the Will. Please don't go back.
Yeah. No, totally. I feel like that's a super valid point. And honestly, like I've had friendships where two paths diverged in a wood, etc., because of stuff like that. And it's sad because you love them, but sometimes you reach a point where you can't be a part of that. But I know when I was 13, I was very, like, not outwardly angry, but like simmering and just struggling really hard at home and different things. And I did not want to be helped. I did not want anyone to try and talk to me about it. And because I was traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you completely understand as a friend of that. It's like, what do I do? How can I like help this? Totally. I totally agree. And it's great when
Well,
you have people when like friendships where one can go over the edge and the other can bring them back and vice versa. So it's not like always this dynamic.
otherwise it's just like it can go into recklessness. It can
Mhm.
go we just read of Dark
Dangerous.
Places,
Yeah.
and
And
that
I
was a lot
think
of
too,
that.
like Jim, for everything he's gone through, he hasn't. I mean, no one to this point that we know of has encountered something like this dark circus, dark carnival, um, and it might be this thing that kind of wakes him up a little bit as well to sort of like see that, because I think when you are in that kind of place, sometimes it takes getting to a really low point.
Yeah.
But I feel for both of them. They're just little babies. They're so young.
Also, the downside of having two wills is that you don't really live. Personally, you're probably more likely to join a cult. Just like kind of seeking, being told what to do in a way.
Yeah.
And so you do need that balance a little bit where it's like, hey, yes, playing by the rules. Oh, kitty. Playing by the rules all the time or by the book. There's a reason why, sorry to bring up Harry Potter, but it's like, Hermione needed to kind of get out of her own way from time to time. And Ron had that chaos and recklessness to kind of balance her out a little bit. So it's a good combo, but you can't skew it either side. Jay Buntrock says, no, I don't want no wills. Well, then write your will, because that's where you're headed. Never mind. If you don't have two gyms, you don't survive the evil circus. That's it.
Yeah,
Will had to kind of
seriously.
like dig in a little bit and be like, well, if you're going, I go with you, because that's how
That
this
would
goes.
definitely have been me and my friends at that age.
Yeah, right. You just like,
Just, all
you know
right,
what? A lot of it,
let's do this dangerous thing.
you're kind of looking for a boundary or for someone to say no. And so you keep testing to see
Yes.
what you can get away
Serena.
with and how much. Yes. And that was frightening. That actually really did make me wake up, though. Wake up to a lot of things. Don't mind me. I've got to get back to a very, very important thing immediately this very second. Good.
No worries. Well, I
Let's
want
talk
to talk
about
about.
Jim. Let's talk
Oh
about
yeah,
Jim.
let's get into it.
Well, he knows death intimately. It shows in his features, in his presence, in his temptation. He has a fear of abandonment. His dad's out of the picture, and he almost died as a child. He's the only surviving child of three, so his siblings passed. From the moment the boys meet the lightning rod salesman, though, Jim is told expressly and covertly that he's special. He understands the carnival. He understands sort of like what's beyond. And this, of course, because exactly what Kate initially said before, it's untapped this darkness in him and it starts blossoming. But he's also afraid of abandonment and being left alone. So he keeps people at arm's length because that's how he thinks he can sort of avoid being hurt. But at the same time, this darkness of the circus is it's pulling, it's drawing him in. And it's interesting that it was like the song that was luring
The
him in,
Calliope, yeah.
that siren song.
Mm.
Let's talk about the
I want to know which
unknown.
parts everyone thought were the scariest, if
Yeah.
they were, or creepiest to you.
Only in the first half of the book. We are only discussing the first half of the book. I think for me, that feeling of being lost. So the mirrors and the voice calling out, help me, I'm drowning, help me, and then getting more and more lost. But I actually think the scarier part afterwards was Miss Foley's denial of it all, that it didn't deter her, that she nearly died. She had to be rescued by these boys. She was kind of like lured into the point where she would be trapped. And then afterwards, she's like, oh, it wasn't even that bad. And you're just like, what are you doing? That was unnerving for
It's
me.
very King too, because it's the kids who are seeing these things and they're telling the adults, and the adults are just can't see it or in denial. It like breaks their brains. And I think there's something to that, you know, them being sort of young and before like the world really shows you that, you know, magic isn't real. Sorry, guys. That we know of yet. But yeah, it is really, one of actually my main recurring nightmare is the teeth falling out, obviously, super fun. But the added layer is that all that's happening, horrifying. And I'm trying to go to different people and ask for help, and no one can see it and see that it's happening. And it's like, viscera.
I scream and there's no sound. Or I could do, help me. Please help me. Awful.
We don't need to unpack either of those things, but
I actually have a recurring nightmare. It's a really thick, mottled, dark forest that gets more and more dense, and something's chasing me.
Ooh.
And I'm running and I'm running and I'm running. And when I look back to see how close it is, I hit a root and I fall. And then I jolt awake because I actually feel the impact of the landing. And I fall forward, but wake up on my back. And it's a very disorienting, but I will jolt awake. And it's like really disorienting.
Maybe you're hopping dimensions.
Oh, that's fun. But I'm still getting chased by someone or something.
Oh, yeah. I don't like that.
Vaden says the description of Mr. Electro coming back to life and crushing the kids with his eye blinks.
The Mr. Electro and Mr. Kugler / the nephew, because the teacher is already under his spell a little bit, whatever that is.
She doesn't have a nephew.
She
doesn't have a nephew.
I know. I was like, wait, how is that? Oh, right.
He's just in town. I'm like, no, you've never heard of him before.
I'm here. It's very, I think that whole part, like the carousel and the description of him melting and all of that. Oh, yeah, that was
very.
That's one of my favorite scenes. But I think too,
the last one. What's the third hidden temple? No. What's the third Indiana Jones where they touch the?
Oh, Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the first one.
I thought that was Last Crusade when
Isn't
they touched the.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
Ark of the Covenant. I don't remember now.
Look, they melt and it's gross. They melt like a candle.
Oh yeah, I definitely thought of that too. But when you can tell that there's some, like, it's almost like he's wearing a skin suit. Like the descriptions about his eyes, and it was the same with Mr. Electro, but like his eyes behind the eyes.
Yes.
There's something about like body snatchers, possession. Those things really always in horror freak me out. I mean, if they're done well, obviously, or even semi well. But I think horror is so interesting because so many different people are drawn to it for many different reasons. But in terms of like what scares you, I just find it really interesting to think about the like fantastical things and then think about like, okay, what is it about that? And I think it's like not knowing if someone is being genuine, but also the idea of like you being taken over, you losing yourself. I think that's where mine is. But all of that with the carousel and then leading through to Mr. Electro, I think is horrifying.
I wasn't so affected by that, which is weird. Because I'm like, you did it to yourself. You volunteered. Didn't he?
Oh, not that. Just him, the like clicking of the eye, like him sort of in this like suit almost. Like there's something else behind Mr. Kugler's body, behind him as the nephew, behind like that there's something watching from within.
Yes, who's watching and capturing. Body. It feels like it's capturing.
Yeah, it's like clocking you.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Yeah. Oh, I don't like it.
I don't know. Yeah. The description of the witch was quite scary. It was interesting when like the police finally came and they watched the show and they were like, oh wow, that was cool.
Yeah, I know. And it's like,
and you're like, no, it's a trap. The man is, yeah.
Even the medical interns are like, we thought he was for sure dead, but I guess he was. Like, they just can't, because like, especially in the just very cookie cutter, heteronormative, like whitewashed 50s and 60s, all of that lends into this is the way the world works, and anything that doesn't work within it is wrong or bad because we're just going off of what we've been told, etc. So it's like this idea that they can't even process accepting it because it would just mess their mind up too much, like looking at Cthulhu or something.
Yeah. Where do you think this is going to go? You've already read it.
Yeah, I've read it. Where do you think this is going to go?
Okay, so the most beautiful girl in the world she's in the mirror thing. She's the lure. She's the siren, yeah? So
that's
trapping
those
people?
Dots connect. I also thought it was really interesting because it feels like even the like shopkeeper and different people in the town, there are different elements of the circus that like lure them in. Like one of them smells the cotton candy and someone hears the calliope. And for the frozen block, when Charles goes by, he doesn't see anything. I got excited. He doesn't see anything in the ice. It's like where someone would be. But when the lightning rod salesman does, he sees a woman in there. And to me, that sort of says like Charles is not tempted by beautiful woman. He has a young, beautiful wife that he loves. Seems like a solid dude, if a bit absent. Whereas if you were just tantalized by that, then you would see something. And the fact that the ice is melted means maybe somebody got out.
Okay. I don't know how I saw it. I thought it was like an optical illusion, or like, look into the crystal ball and everyone sees something different.
Yeah, for me, that was my interpretation of the circus was like, it's all about temptation.
It's the 30s through the 60s. Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
So even more so. And also, so then it's also
you go.
The Depression, right?
Yeah. They're all looking for a little light in their life, which is why I will. The salesman dies and no one cares. That was like another thing.
But he was traveling too, so nobody knows him.
Still, they're getting picked off one at a time. And then Jim takes down the lightning rod.
Because he wants to see what's going to happen. And he's mad, and he's like, fine, take that. He doesn't even want to put it on at first. He only does it for his
I'm
mom.
like, put it up.
I know. Like maybe, it feels like, would they have witnessed everything? Like that was something I thought was like, would the lightning rod like really kind of put a bubble around them? But then we get to the witch scene and it feels like, okay, it's to sort of like guard from her.
What's her purpose? What's her deal?
So for me, what the boys think is that, and can sort of like sense from her, is that even though she's blind, she just imagine every single other sense like super heightened plus creepy magic stuff. So she's got this balloon and it's like, I think it's sort of connected to her, like when she's like breathing out or breathing in, like that's why there's all that talk about breath. It's like lowering and things. So she's trying to find them, and then she like marks his house so she could find them again. So that's why they washed that off. And then I did love that Will was like, I'm gonna go take her down.
Is that what happened?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, man. He didn't die. They took him and he became the dwarf. When they're with Mr. Electro and they're like, God, that dwarf looks weirdly familiar, and they realize it's the salesman.
Got it.
Yes. Yeah. And so she's like, it just feels like she is their like bloodhound, kind of. She's seeking them out and marking them so they can find them whenever they have a plan or whatever. And but I did really love that Will decided to go off on his own, and even though it was so dumb, he did that. I thought it was really sweet that he was like, no, you're not going to get my friend. I'm
Yeah.
going to do something.
Why are they continually going back? Is it the once you've kind of sipped from the cup?
Well, it's not just them that's entranced, you know, like the teacher.
Yeah, I know. It's everyone. Yeah, she was like, no. But I thought
throws
that's
them under the
because
bus.
I know. Talks to the police and was like, now we're thieves. But she's brainwashed because nephew's in the home.
Sure.
You
But
know.
she also then we see her, like, I don't know if is the magic all connected? Like, is it part of, you know what I mean? So I think, I know.
Was it the barber that was dead?
I feel like well,
the barber
they
died.
think they said that he was
That's
dead.
who I thought it was. Sorry.
But they don't
the salesman.
That's okay. But they don't know for certain. He just put up like a sign that said I'm sick, and Will was like panicking to say something. So he was like, he's dead. And she doesn't give any thoughts. But I think the magic of the carnival, after she goes into the mirrors, then she's happy to go again. Other people are going again. So it is like luring.
Yeah.
That's fair. Up for interpretation. But yeah, it feels like all of them are being drawn in once they go. But I think Will is following Jim.
Yes.
And Jim is chasing this circus. So for them, that's why
he's running directly into the line of fire.
And Will, in the beginning of the book, we see him sometimes like go off and be like, I don't want to go, so I'm going home. But as it gets more and more real, Will can see that his friend is going down this dark path. And even though he knows it's dumb and he's terrified, he is this protector type. So he still goes with him. He still wants to go out and do that. So it's sort of him like stepping up in the absence of Jim, kind of having all of this energy. Yep. Also that. In the 30s. Mm-hmm. What else are you going to do? You know?
What do we think's going to happen? Oh, I'm trying to wonder what's going to happen with this nephew. He's conveniently placed in this home with Mrs. Foley. I think she's going to die. Nearly got her the first time, but the boys saved her. But now she's burnt the bridge by accusing the two of being thieves. So they're not, I guess, less likely to help her.
But he's also Mr. Electro at this point. So, but even though he was gone, she still went to the police. She's still under the spell. And it was she was like, he told me I have to, you know, he wants me to go back. I want to go back. I have to make sure that they don't try to stop me again. So she's definitely going back.
I won't even go to Halloween Horror Nights. Like,
I would 100% have gone to.
There's no way. I would rather do so many other things before going.
You couldn't keep me away. I was like already trying to contact spirits like outside of Ouija.
No, I was the one who was scared, being like, "Don't fuck with that, guys." Like,
I mean, it's scary too, but it's fun scary.
Cool deets. Hey, Ray Bradbury is by far my favorite author. Have you two talked a lot about his other short stories? Go, Rachel.
We did. We talked a little bit in the beginning. Once we wrap, if you want to go back and watch, but we also covered The Martian Chronicles a few years ago, which is my favorite book, and Bradbury is probably my favorite author in terms of like scope and everything, and writing style is way up there. And we talked a little bit about the Velt and the Illustrated Man having characters from this book. Mr. Electro, also that Ray Bradbury was inspired to become a writer when he was 12, and the circus came to town, and a magician named Mr. Electro, or performer, I don't know what his deal was, told him you must live forever, and he started writing after that. And yeah, but definitely check out our Martian Chronicles episode if you can, and I'm always happy to talk about Bradbury, so you can tweet at me.
I interviewed Electro. Jamie Foxx, Spider-Man.
Nice. Do you have any predictions, Maude?
I mean, some people are gonna die. I like the idea of luring people in to create more of the freaks for the freak show circus. I think we're going to unveil a little bit more about sort of who is a part of the circus. I think Jim is going to be primed for that. And he's either going to have an epiphany and like come to, but he's not going to get there without Will, or they're going to get to Will and Jim has to save him or join him. That could be interesting. I'm not loving this book.
Well, it's kind of short.
Yeah, that's true.
I would also maybe recommend looking at either a physical copy or the ebook. I think I listened to it this time and then I went back and read it, and there's something about, like, I prefer audiobooks because I have ADHD and I like to be doing many things at one time and sitting, which how I read so much as a kid and leading to now without audiobooks until a few years ago. Thank you, Maude, for showing me the light. I don't even know how I did it, but I do think with writing like this, it can be helpful.
I wish I was reading pages.
Yeah.
There are a few books that I've actually ended up buying because the audiobook just wasn't seeping in. Sometimes I'm wearing these words, like I am immersed, I am there. Other times it just ricochets off me for some reason. It's an interesting discussion. I said that I wasn't loving it. Not alone.
There you go. That's totally fine. It is I always do the math of like 1970 was 30 years ago, that whole thing. But it's, was written 60 years ago and is a very specific kind of writing style. And he was he did write so many short stories that had kind of through lines. So it is that is his style a little bit. So I totally get it. It's not for everyone. It is for me, but it's not for everyone.
And we are in October for our spooky book. And this is unnerving. It's a little unnerving. Pailang says, look, I didn't really understand it when I first read it. I would need a second read. J. Bunt Rock, in the middle of the road on it.
Super fair.
I think this would be better on a second read. But Jimmy says, you know what?
I think so too. I think like a physical copy on the second read would help you. I need to find mine because I could lend it to you. But yeah, I think like the way it's written, and maybe next week, we can talk about the end of the book, obviously, and we can talk about some of the themes. But maybe we can also read some passages.
Yeah, I'd like that actually.
I have so many highlighted, so I'll whittle it down.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that'll be good because I want to reappreciate it because I obviously get it in that fleeting moment and I don't get to kind of like savor it.
And if you did read the physical version and you still didn't like it, also fine.
Are we going to watch the movie?
Okay, yes. So I was going to say, if we wanted to do some extra credit, there is an 80s movie adaptation. I believe it's on YouTube.
For free, it is.
Yeah, I agree with that statement, honestly. It's just not designed, I think, for
100%.
For that.
It's not.
But there's that movie, 1983. So if you want to watch that, we could talk about that a little bit, especially in the after show. And extra reading, if you are loving it and you haven't really read much Bradbury before, I would suggest like The Illustrated Man. If you want characters from this, or if you haven't read The Martian Chronicles, it's my favorite. I super agree. Every time we talk about something, I learn something new about how people are interpreting it. When our dear friend, I haven't seen the movie since I was in high school and got really, really stoned and rented it from
You see, you're the same gym as Jonathan Pryce.
What? Really?
He and I used to work out at the same gym.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And then he was like on Game of Thrones. I was like, what?
What?
Sir,
What?
stop
The
using
seven
religion to destroy
sons?
them. Yeah.
Yeah. But definitely check out the movie if you can. And if you are interested in reading other characters from this story, you could do The Illustrated Man, which is short stories. They're complete stories. Or The Martian Chronicles, because I love it.
Maybe we'll have to do it again. Now it's been long enough.
We could.
That's the face we
do
make
have to
for
talk
that.
about our next book, which we will discuss. But you know what? People should send us recommendations.
Yes, please let us know those recommendations. Use the hashtag Nerdist Book Club. If you are in the reading section of the Geek Bomb Discord, Terry has actually just posted the link to Something Wicked This Way Comes, the YouTube link, if you want it there. We are going to be finishing this book. Make sure you get to the end of it by next Wednesday, October 26th. Same time, 5 p.m. We'll jump on board to talk about the second half of Something Wicked This Way Comes. We'll talk about the spoilers, the end of it, and we'll let you know our next book for November as well. Also letting you know that it's next week that we have the after show. We do it on the completion of the book. Thank you again for being patient as we traverse through some technical difficulties and letting us go 15 minutes over the hour to make up for our lost time. Really appreciate you. Good luck with this one. If you do want to keep chatting in the Geek Bomb Discord, head over to patreon.com/geekbomb. Sign up to the lowest tier. You get access to the channel. We talk books 24/7, and that's where the after show will be next week. And we also do a second book if you're looking to continue reading the first half of the month. We just finished Gillian Flynn's Dark Places, which was depressing.
Yes, I know.
Oh boy. We commiserated over that one for sure. And our next
I'm gonna
book.
pop into the chat and see what folks are
deliver
saying.
your thoughts on that. Fantastic. Our next book is Black Sun by Rebecca Lisa. Last name.
Oh, nice. I have that on my to be read list.
Really?
I have
We're
some
doing that one
new
for
books
November.
I've read that I'll put in the Geek Bomb chat as well. That I thought
fantastic. Yes, because Nerdist needs a November and a December book. Geek Bomb's already locked it in. We've got Black Sun by Rebecca. Lisa, let me know. Roan Horse, thank you. Oh, look at my beautifuls delivering
Lisa's on
my
it,
answer.
always.
Roan Horse. And we're going to do the first 4 Murderbot books for December.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
Nice.
so they're little novellas as well. So we're going to be doing those. Yes, Black Belt. We are covering an Indigenous author next month. She is an Indigenous author, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Colleen's already read it. Says, I can't wait to hear what book club thinks of Black Sun. So there you go. Suggestion coming in from Ian Powell, Stephen King's Fairy Tale.
Ooh, is that the newer one?
Yes, brand new out. I believe it's a little bit more fantasy instead of horror coming from Stephen King, which is interesting.
I read a book by Stephen King when I was a kid called like Eyes of the Dragon, I think. That was more, I mean, there was like murder and intrigue, but it was set in like a fantasy realm. And I always thought that was like interesting because he did so much horror. Anyway.
I know. It's kind of lovely when they branch out a little bit. Audible had a sale a couple of weekends ago. I bought 34 books. So keep the recommendations coming because they'll buy them. I know, Jay Buntrock, we need to do Babel. Maybe we should do that on Nerdist Book Club. It's RF Kwang, I believe, does that one. Also does the Poppy War series. People are excited about Murderbot, which is a lot of fun. Yay.
I know, we put it up for a vote a couple of times. Maybe I'll try to read along. I know I always see that, but I'm tired.
There's a lot to do here, but we are so excited.
I just want to say thank you to Maude for being an amazing host, but more importantly, an amazing friend, because she is always there for me. And I just wanted to say it to everyone. I love you.
You're very welcome, Boo. Love you too. I love that we get to do this twice a month. A lot of fun. Also drinks next week. Okay, cool. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you same time Wednesday next week. Let's finish this dang book so we can talk if book good. Thank you so much for watching.